How you doing, guys? Today, as the title says, I am going to start picking at my senior. Now, if you're familiar with my channel, you know I bought this senior over 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago. I parked it right where it's sitting, and I really have not touched it. And as you can tell, it's become a shelf. So we're going to try to change that. And overall, my seniors, you know, it's not visually nice. You know, it is kind of crusty, it is kind of rusty, but really at the end of the day, it's in pretty darn good shape. You wouldn't believe me, but I'm telling you the truth. There is problem areas, but really it's not destroyed. It looks more destroyed than it really is. The worst part on the entire tractor was right there. That spindle, because as you can see, somebody welded a square head bolt to fix the spindle. It really should look like that spindle. So this spindle right here is probably the second worst piece on the entire tractor. The first worst piece was the wheel that was on this spindle specifically. And that's where I'm going to start the entire project. I'm going to start the project with the front rims. So let's walk over to the workbench, see what we got, and how I plan on fixing it. So if you're not familiar with a senior in general, the front rims are a 312 rim. So in other words, they're 3-inch wide from this inside bead to inside bead, and it's 12 inches in diameter. So the senior originally had a 312 front tire. Now those are pretty much non-existent. So for the most part, from the best of my understanding, people replace these tires with a 412 tire. Now that brings in a different issue, the wider tire that is, but I'll cover that in another video at a different time. Today we're just going to specifically take a look at the front rims of my senior. And as you can tell, this particular rim, this was the rim on the side of with the bolt style spindle. It's in rough shape. This is where the valve stem was, and just for purpose's sake, there you go. That's the size hole I'm dealing with right there. Plus it's got a little blow through here. It's rotted through here. There's some more rot holes right here, as well as if we spin the rim all the way around, we got another rot hole right there. I'm sure there's others, but after I wire wheeled the rim down, you can see the outside of the rim is in pretty rough shape. It's super thin in places. It weighs literally about 1 pound less than this one, and this one I haven't even touched yet. You can see it's still crusty, but it's not nearly as rotted. And this is not a hole, that's just some crap because there's nothing back there. But this rim is in much better shape. It's pitted than this one was, and this was the rim that was on the side with the good spindle. Or so if you're looking at the tractor from the front, this was the right rim, this was the left rim. Luckily, the insides of the rims look fine. The races look like they're in good shape. They probably could be replaced. This one here has a couple little tarnish marks on the face of the race, but it really is not in bad shape. You could reuse those races. So that's a plus, and that's for both of them. You can see the races. The race on this one is still in good shape, and if I spin this rim around and we take a look at the race on this side, it appears to be in really good shape. There's no issues with it. It's nice and smooth. Now there is a roller taper. There's two per wheel taper roller bearings. Tapered roller bearings. There we go. And here they are, right here. And the tractor originally had, or the way is a Timken bearing. And the number is, let's see where, can I read the number? Let me see what it is. 09067. So that's 09067. 09067. And it's funny. Look how, I mean, if you just hold this bearing, look how bad it is, how worn out it is. I mean, this thing is just ridiculously worn out. You can just, the inside just moves around. I mean, yeah, you can just see how much plays in. So the bearings are all worn out. Luckily, it appears that the bearings wore out, not the races. So I went online and I did order a new cone and a new hat, or they call it a cone or hat, a cup, cone and cup. That's what they call them. So I'm going to try to do this with one hand. I'm going to shake that out. I'm going to open this up real quick with one hand. Sorry. Whoa, don't drop it. That would have been bad. So there's the new race. And here is the new bearing. And this bearing is a, where is it? It's a 09067 cone and a 09195 cup. And if I put this in here, it just barely starts to go in. So this is the correct race for senior front rim. Now, I don't know if I'm going to push the race. I don't know if I'm going to replace the races because I put one of these new bearings in the race and it appears to work just fine. So I'm just going to put this off to the side. We can deal with that in a minute. So really, how am I going to fix this? Fix the rims in general? I thought about this, and this is what I came up with. I decided to order from Miller Tire new 312 hoops. That way, it just makes it simple, easy. It makes it a quick fix. And now, I could have taken I could have found another 312 rim, like at a tractor show, drilled out the spot welds and take the center out in order to put this center in it, because I need to reuse the spokes and the centerpiece. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm going to have to do a lot of work in order to just put another, used 312 rim. And I probably would pay $50 for the two rims, or, $40 for the two rims, something to that effect. Well, Miller has these Repop 312 rings, tire rings. And I just decided that would be the best way to go. I mean, the other way I could have fixed it is I could have taken like a 612 rim, cut sections out, and then just replaced each section of this rim. But by the time you get done with that, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of work. I'm going to put, a fair amount of body filler in the rim in order to get it nice and smooth so you can paint it and make it look real nice and perfect. So I thought of that avenue too. So there was like three avenues. One, find another 312 rim, take this center out, put it in the used ring or hoop, or chop up a 612 rim in order to fix this rim. But at the end of the day, that would have been just a lot of work. Or just order a new hoop, cut the center out of this rim, weld it into this hoop, and then it's all fixed. Now, there's a couple things that are a little bit different between the Repop hoop and the senior hoop. So let me get the other rim, because that one's in a little bit better shape, and I'll show you the differences. Okay, with the other rim up on the workbench, we can kind of take a look at what's the differences between these rims, or the outer rings, or hoops, or however you want to call them. And there's a couple of significant differences that are going to have to be workarounds. It's not a big deal, but I'm just going to have to deal with it. Number one, the thickness of the metal is totally different. So if I take my finger and I butt these up together, that's just so you can see the difference. You can see the difference. The metal of the new rim is a lot thinner. It's about 3/4 as thick as the original rim. Now, if this was a good rim, or the other rim was not all, wasted, that would be a big issue. But because the other rim is so wasted and worn down and rusted so thin throughout the rim, this one's way nice. This is way stronger. And it's more than strong enough for what we're doing, or what I'm doing. So that's number one. Number two, because of the thinner metal, the rim is actually not as thick. Even though that this is 3 inches from here to here, and it is 12 inches in diameter, it's just not as thick as the other rim, or as wide, edge to edge. And you say, well, what's the big deal about that? Well, the big deal about that is this. The senior rim, the top of the hub, okay, center hub is actually in line with the top of the rim. So if you put a straight edge straight across, this, and this are all in line with each other. Now, you say, well, big deal. Well, if I took that center and lined it up just like that in this rim, which is thinner, the spokes themselves are not going to line up directly in the center of the rim. So in other words, if I took this out, put it there, lined it all up, the spokes would be off center from the rim. So that brings me to a certain thing. Now, what do? Do I just do it and just put them, off-centered a little bit so that way everything lines up, and when you put it back on the tractor, visually everything is lined up perfect? Or do I center the posts, or I center the spokes in the rim, and then this section will stick out or be proud just a little bit beyond the edge of the rims? That could look awkward, and I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I really want to not center the spokes in the center of the rim. Again, I think that might look a little weird. So, but thirdly, I don't feel like cutting off all these spokes and redoing this whole thing. That kind of negates the process, if you want to call it. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out, take the center to my buddy's machine shop, just barely machine just the front edge of this rim down, so that way when I line it all up in this rim, the spokes will line up in the center of the rim, the hub will be in line with the edges of the rim, just like a senior should be. A lot of work, a lot of thinking, a lot of measuring before I go ahead and do anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the center out of the other rim. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take my die grinder with a very thin cutoff wheel, and I'm just going to grind the welds down real gently. So that will get this thing to focus for you a little bit, hopefully. There it is. That way I can just find the edge of the spoke, and you can see I'm just starting to kiss the outer edge of the band iron. It's right there. You can see that little dark gray line. I'm going to have to do that on each one of these spokes, front and back, and then I will probably take a hacksaw and just kind of cut the welds and pull the center out of the center of the ring. That way I can start to adjust it to where I'll figure out how I want to do it before I make any machining or anything to that effect. That's the plan. That's the way I'm going to go at this point in time. We'll see how it all works out. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Not a lot of action in this one, I know, but in order to do this tractor right, there's going to need to be a lot of planning. And this is not one of those projects where I'm just going to kind of machine this, machine that, put this together, put that together, see if it works. I have to do this a little bit more methodical. I got to make sure that I measure twice, I cut once, tack weld it, spin it, make sure it spins true, things of that nature, because this tractor is not the kind of tractor that you just slam jam. And I want it to look right when it's all said and done. Whew! So with that, I'm going to cut that center out and figure out what I'm going to do to make it look right, as well as I'm going to need to build a jig in order to put the rim together, so that way it'll be easier to weld. So a lot of things coming up just on the front rims. They are the worst part of the entire tractor, honestly. So this, and the front rims on a senior are very specific. So I think it's best that I take my time, really focus, and do this right. Well, thanks again, guys, for watching. Thank you for all your support. If you like this video, found it interesting, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Hit that bell so you get notifications of the new senior videos that are coming up in the near future. And as always, thank you very much and have a great day.